Okay, this is my third attempt at this video because my camera decided that it was tired and stopped recording about a minute and a half in the last few times I tried. So, one more try. See if this one works. Welcome to the good news. I'm glad you could join me today. Just a little side note, in case you guys forgot or didn't read the bio, you can get a free Book of Mormon on mormon.org, and it's 100% free, no strings attached. So feel free to get a free Book of Mormon and follow along with me. Also, please feel free to comment your questions or any insights that you had while studying this chapter or anything else you were studying this week. I love to hear what other people are studying. It's a major way of my learning is to hear from what other people have figured out in their personal studying this and what they've learned in their life recently. And so let me know what's going on. Leave some comments. Last time I talked about 1 Nephi chapter 1 and I loved it. And so now I've studied 1 Nephi chapter 2, and I was going to do a few chapters, but there's just so much in every chapter that you can gather that it's so hard to fit it all into one small video. And so, you know, in 1 Nephi chapter 2, I found like at least four different morals, four different things for me that I could pull from this to try to learn from. And so I'll try to touch on all of those things. I won't be able to go horribly into depth with them. Too bad for you guys. I know you love listening to me rant on about these things. So yeah, let's get started. So we left off last time in 1 Nephi chapter 1. Lehi had prophesied to the people that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed. Remember, he started in Jerusalem. And because of that, the people hated him. Apparently, when you tell people they're wicked, they want to kill you. So watch out for that one. And so that's pretty much where we left off, and Nephi was talking about also, now I'm going to show you how when people are faithful, how God delivers his servants. So, it starts out with the Lord came to Lehi in a dream, and spake unto him and said, you have done the things that you were supposed to do. You prophesied to the people concerning the destruction of Jerusalem, and now they seek to take away your life. So he's saying, I'm aware of you, I know what's going on. And he commanded Lehi that he should take his family and leave, go into the wilderness. And so Lehi decided to be obedient to this. And I love in verse 4 we learn a lot about Lehi and the kind of person that he is, okay? So I'm going to read verse 4 out loud. It says, and it came to pass, he departed into the wilderness, and he left his house, and the land of his inheritance, and his gold, and his silver, and his precious things, and took nothing with him, save it were his family, and provisions, and tents, and departed into the wilderness. Okay, so Lehi was not just a crazy man living on the street, okay? He had a house, he had inherited land, he had gold and silver and precious things, but because of this commandment from the Lord, he took none of it with him, okay? And all he took was his family, provisions, stuff that they could survive on, and tents. And they left and departed into the wilderness like he was commanded. Okay, the word that we would use for something like that is consecration, meaning that you are willing to sacrifice everything that you have, all your time, all your talents, all your means, your house, your inheritance, your gold and silver, to the Lord and what he needs you to do with it. And for most of us, we don't have to sacrifice, you know, literally sacrifice our house and our gold and silver and precious things. But there are other things that we have to sacrifice. We have to, you know, use our time. Time is a huge one. You know, there's callings in the church, as well as sometimes you're just asked to stop and help someone, you know, and you have to be willing to do that. Maybe you're really good at fixing cars, and someone needs help fixing their car, and so the Lord would ask you to use that talent to serve another person. That's kind of the idea of consecration. So I really love that. It really shows a lot about Lehi, that he is such a consecrated person, that he was willing to leave all his stuff to follow the commandments of the Lord. So they left. And it says that they were traveling by the borders of the Red Sea, and they traveled in the wilderness near the Red Sea, and so he said that he was traveling with his family. So Nephi is describing his family, which consisted of my mother Sariah and my older brothers, who were Laman, Lemuel, and Sam. So the family is Lehi and Sariah are the parents, and then there's Nephi and his brothers, and so the sons are Laman, Lemuel, Sam, and Nephi, okay? And we're going to learn more about Nephi's brothers in this chapter too. But really quick, I want to focus on verses 6 and 7. So in verse 6 it says that he had been traveling in the wilderness for 3 days straight, okay? So he had left all his stuff, he's been traveling for 3 days, and his children aren't exactly excited, which we'll read about in verses like 11 through 14. His children weren't excited. They were kind of angsty teens at this time. And the first thing that he does, after he's been traveling for 3 days, it says he built an altar of stones and made an offering unto the Lord and gave thanks unto the Lord our God. Okay, this blows my mind. He doesn't even know where he's going yet. And he stops to thank God for prompting him to leave all his stuff, go into the wilderness with these annoying, whiny kids, and he stopped and thanked God. That blows my mind, okay? I have a really hard time being thankful for my trials. I'm working on it. Okay, that's a hard thing to do, and, you know, sometimes you can see later on, oh, I can see how that trial was actually helpful to me, and I'm grateful that I went through it, but I wouldn't do it again. But Lehi is in the beginning to middle of this trial. He doesn't understand what's going on yet. He doesn't see the outcome, but he still stops and builds an altar of stones to offer thanks to the Lord. This guy knows what's going on. He gets it. Lehi gets it. I love Lehi. He's awesome. I need to learn from that. I need to do better at being thankful for my trials while I'm still in my trials. That is hard. That's hard to do. So anyways, I love those verses. If you like it, highlight it, because I highlighted it or underlined it. Okay, so next it talks about, so they were camping in this valley near the borders of the mouth of where there was a river that was going into the Red Sea, and that's where they were kind of stopped to camp. And he saw the waters of the river emptied into the fountain of the Red Sea, and spake unto Laman, saying, Oh, that thou mightest be like unto this river, continually running into the fountains of all righteousness. And he spake unto Lemuel, Oh, that thou mightest be like unto this valley, firm and steadfast and immovable, and keeping the commandments of the Lord. Okay, so he's talking to his two oldest sons, Laman and Lemuel, okay? And to Laman he says, I want you to be like this river, continually running into the fountain of righteousness. I want you to follow this example. I am worried about you. And he says to Lemuel, I wish that you could be like this valley, firm and steadfast and immovable in keeping the commandments of the Lord. He's saying this to his sons because in verse 11 he says that he spake because of the stiff-neckedness of Laman and Lemuel, for behold, they did murmur in many things against their father. Okay, so Laman and Lemuel, they're super whiny. To murmur basically means childish whining, okay? And they're whining and crying about their dad. Oh, you made us leave all our friends and all of our stuff, and you're a visionary man, and you're these foolish imaginations of your heart, you're following them, and you're going to lead us down to destruction. We're all going to die in the wilderness, okay? They're pretty much way Debbie Downers at this point. But, I mean, who wouldn't be? I still don't understand how Lehi was smart enough to stop and build an altar of thanks. But in verse 12 it says that this they did speak, and they murmured against their father because they knew not the dealings of that God who had created them. And Lehi did. And so that's the difference here, is that they didn't understand their Father in heaven. They didn't know his love for them. They didn't know of his eternal plan of salvation. And so that's why they're struggling with this so much, is they did not have a relationship with their Father in heaven. So they didn't believe that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed. They didn't believe that any of this was going to happen. And so Lehi spake to them and testified to them with such great power that their frames did shake before him. And he did confound them, that they durst not utter against him, wherefore they did as he commanded them. So they were still obedient, because Lehi spoke in a way that it was so powerful that they could not deny what he said. But they still did not really have a spiritual conversion. They were kind of, in a way, more forced into it, that they couldn't deny it, but they weren't going to like it still, which is personal choice, right? And so then it talks about Nephi. So I love verse 16. We learn a little bit more about Nephi, okay? It says, "And it came to pass that I, Nephi, being exceedingly young, nevertheless being large in stature, and also having a great desire to know of the mysteries of God." So at this point, he did not yet know of the mysteries of God, but he wanted to. And he says, "Wherefore I did cry unto the Lord, and behold, he did visit me, and did soften my heart, that I did believe all the words which had been spoken by my father. Wherefore I did not rebel against him like unto my brothers." Okay, so he softened my heart, meaning that previous to this, his heart had not been soft. He probably had very similar questions to Laman and Lemuel. Why are we doing this? Why are we leaving everything that we had to go into the wilderness, and we don't even know where we're going? But the way that he reacted was totally different, and instead he prayed to his Father in heaven to know what was going on. That's something that I need to learn to do, to more often, instead of think, well, this is such a pain, why are we doing this? This is so inconvenient. But to remember, why don't you just stop and ask God what's going on, because he will tell you. That's the thing, it's not a secret most of the time. He will tell you, it's going to be okay, and I have a plan. And so I really love that. And so Nephi went, and he took this new knowledge, he took it to Sam, and told him that he believed the words of his father, and Sam believed in his words. He felt the Spirit, and he believed his words. But Laman and Lemuel would not hearken unto my words. And being grieved because of the hardness of their hearts, I cried unto the Lord for them. And so he was so sad that his brothers wouldn't listen, that he went and he was crying unto the Lord for them. And the Lord spake unto me, saying, Blessed art thou, Nephi, because of thy faith, for thou hast sought me diligently with lowliness of heart. Those are really two key things. Those are good things to put in a recipe, is to seek diligently and lowliness of heart. And that's how he was able to receive a confirmation that what was going on was true. And he leaves these promises with Nephi. They're really cool. That as much as his brothers would rebel against him, and because he has been, as long as he keeps the commandments of God, that he will prosper, and he will be led to a land of promise, that he, as long as his brothers rebel against him, that they will be cut off from the presence of the Lord, and he will have, he will be made a ruler and a teacher. In verse 22, thou shalt be made a ruler and a teacher over thy brethren, for behold, in that day that they shall rebel against me, I will curse them with even a sore curse, and they shall have no power over thy seed, except thy seed shall rebel against me also. And if it so be that they rebel against me, they shall be a scourge unto thy seed to stir up in ways of remembrance. So he says, you will be ruler over thy brethren, and your seed will rule over thy brethren's seed, until your seed begins to make bad choices. So this is kind of the beginning where God is setting the standard, where he says, as long as you are righteous and keeping my commandments, then you will be fine. Anyone who is doing the right thing, you'll be fine. You will do fine in life. You may not be rich, but you will be okay. But as long as you are rebelling against me, you're going to have problems. Not necessarily because I hate you and I'll want you to be miserable, but because these are the natural consequences of disobeying the commandments that I've given you. And so that's kind of where I left off in my study, and I am kind of going longer than I wanted to. But I'm thankful for the things that I was able to learn in this chapter. First of all, like from Lehi, to be consecrated, to be willing to sacrifice what you have for the Lord and his purposes, as well as being thankful for my trials. I learned to ask. Whenever I don't understand what's going on, just ask my Father in heaven, and he will tell me what's going on. I need to remember to do that. I love this quote I found by Henry B. Eyring. It says, if you listen with the Spirit, you will find your heart softened, your faith strengthened, and your capacity to love the Lord increased. It's so important to listen with the Spirit. And I testify that it's true. I testify that these things, if we apply them to our life, they will help us to come closer to God. And I know that they always do help me come closer to God. I have to get going to church now. But I love you guys, and feel free to ask me questions, and I hope that you guys have a great day and a great week, and I guess we'll see you next time. Goodbye!